We've seen 3 winners in 4 races so far. Nieva added himself to that list last week at Sandown and now sits atop the points battle. Familiar names and rising stars are fighting him along the way, but today they'll meet a familiar venue with a fresh coat of paint. It's time for a race along the canal as we get ready to watch round 5 of the Lotus 49 Grand Prix Legend Series. And you'll see it all live here on the Global Sim Racing channel. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth is Roush Racing driver Joey Atterbury. Behind the scenes is our director Daniel Costello, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. Zolder looks good as ever with iRacing's new refresh of the circuit. Let's get a closer look at it with our track guide. Welcome to Zolder, a temporary home for the Belgian Grand Prix in the 70s and 80s. In present day, it's mainly used for GT and lower-level formula racing. The track sits in the northeast corner of the country near Hasselt, nestled right up against the Albert Canal. The two raceable layouts are essentially the same, save for the tightness of the Jackie Ick chicane. Both are just under 2.5 miles and have 10 turns. While the track had some sadly infamous moments for Formula One, it remains a popular venue. Its most notable feature is the plethora of chicanes that scatter the lap. The slowdown penalties drivers receive for cutting the course at them can tend to be race-defining. But more worrisome are the monstrously large curbs parked at the apexes that have been known to tear apart wings and suspensions. Passing tends to be difficult, with only 2 spots offering out braking zones that aren't into chicanes. The Boulderberg hairpin is the easier of the two, while Erst is a medium-speed, downhill, off-camber 90-degree turn. To say it proves troublesome to get right, even when not in a battle, is an understatement. While the lap opens up with many of those swift, wide-radius corners, the rest of the turns are almost all hard braking zones. High-powered cars with little downforce do need to be careful between the Kleine chicane and Butte, because there's a large crest that can catch you out. Winning here will require precision and patience. Belgian fans may have the more famous Spa to choose from, but you can't go wrong with the consistently good action this track puts forward. So, as we can see with the beautiful Belgian countryside, it's going to be a tricky one. So many chicanes here, Joey.
Yeah, it's an incredible circuit, 10 turns, 2.492 miles in length, and it's really more of a medium-speed racetrack with those aggressive chicanes and those aggressive curves that you were talking about. Turn 1 and 2 are surprisingly fast, and not a whole lot of visual references there, but it's also the fastest sector on the racetrack. You got to be comfortable with threshold late braking into those aggressive chicanes. It can make or break a lap time, and that final sector here at Zolder is actually flat in terms of elevation, and it includes some of the slowest speed turns all lap. Watch out for late lunges and to try to force those defensive maneuvers, especially in that final chicane, which can lead to those over-under opportunities leading down the front straightaway.
Now, as for the championship, it's been an interesting start to things. Like I said, there's some familiar faces, but there's definitely a few that are finding themselves much higher up. Jorge Nieva leads Nicola Kaki. Those two we've seen up at the front for some time. Kevin Verbruggen, with a very consistent season, finds himself in third. Same thing with Cam Porter, very close together on points. Leo Sequeiro has been showing up more and more at the front of the field, so he sits in 5th. Togo Hisada, having missed last week, drops down to 7th, unfortunately. Seb Tixier, likewise, unfortunately, was sick. He is here today, so he sits in 9th. We'll see if he can bounce back on that one. But that is just the F1 standings. For the Amateur Championship, we have the F2 battle here, Joey.
Same car, different I rating, and it's currently Mats Linden leading that with 133 points, but only 9 points behind is Jan Steffin. And then this next group of 3 drivers, very, very close. That includes Sandy Banerjee, Jonathan Jordan. A little bit further back is Tobias Harnvey, and then outside of the top 5 includes Thomas Tuba, Roberto Pengrazzi, Andres Bruno, David Muse, and David Anderson.
We also have a Nations Cup that the drivers fight for, and it's actually relatively far apart at the top for this early in the season. Spain leading by 30 points over Italy. The U.S. and the U.K., I say this every time, they're always just locked in a battle. They seem to bring a lot of drivers, and they wind up usually in these top 10 close together. Netherlands following them by only about 10 points. but they've got a single point between themselves and Germany, which is going to be a fun one to watch. Expect Singapore to climb upwards throughout the season, as they usually are up at the very top. Same thing with Japan, with Togo often contributing a lot of the points there. But it is Spain leading the way, at least for now, into today's race, which, Joey, I believe you can familiarize us with what we're in store for.
Currently on round 5 of 12 here this season. It's going to be 22 laps around Zolder. An open setup, as it always is with these Lotus 49s. So go join the community, join the Discord. They love sharing the fast setups, making sure everybody is comfortable in these little vintage open wheel cars. No spare car, speaking of the cars. So if you run into a competitor or guardrail or anything, you're going to have to live with that damage or come down pit road and get that fixed. A drive-through penalty at 17 incident points and a disqualification at 25 incident points. There is a lot of runoff here at Zolder. You can easily pick up those incident points, but we say it every single week here. The name of the game, don't go crashing into your competitors with those wheels exposed.
And I feel like the chicanes definitely make it easy to pick up those off tracks, just accidentally cutting the course that little bit much. As it is Nicola Kaki currently at the top. Well, I take that back. It just became Toga Hisada by a little less than a tenth of a second. And it's Seb Tixier sitting in third. So it is interesting up at the front of the field. Now, I've been watching Jorge Nieva, and it looks like he's, I think, just finishing his lap here soon. So we should see him on the board as long as he kept it between the white lines. Kevin Verbruggen now jumps up ahead of Tixier and puts himself into third, maybe fighting back against what I was saying earlier about not necessarily being fast. Looks like today he will be one to watch out for.
I've always liked Jorge Nieva's qualifying style. He usually waits maybe a couple minutes and then goes out there and sets down a lap time, because kind of provides a little bit of a reference on his relative black box there, sees what everybody else has been able to manage so far, and then he can go out there and decide how far he needs to push it in those brake zones, or maybe how much speed he needs to carry in some of these corners here. So here he is coming up. He's going to complete his first timed lap after this final chicane section.
Oof, Andreas Valenteus now up to a 28.7. Tixier improved, but stays in fourth because of Valenteus jumping upwards. So what about Nieva? 29.8. That's not really that great. That's only seventh for the number 2 car. We'll see if he can do better on the second time around.
Bjorn Ackerman currently on his second of 2 qualifying laps. He's currently P11 with a 1:30.786 here in this number 14 machine. He is also coming up to this final chicane sector. It is so tricky through here. The other 2 chicanes, they're much more fast. They're much more aggressive. This final chicane, it almost seems lackadaisical, and you just kind of have to tiptoe your way around through it. Bjorn is able to put down a 129.948, so he jumps up inside the top 10 to 8th.
Yeah, that's just behind Nieva. Just to emphasize that Jorge is a bit out of position on this one. Ron Solka, who comes around in the number 32 car. Can he qualify better than his I rating will imply? He'll hit the line, and this is actually his out lap we're hearing. So it looks like he'll have to, well, carry on around and not set a time because he's not got enough left. Nieva should be able to get there in time as he comes out of Boulderberg, which is the last hairpin, and now finally into the X chicane. Like Joey was saying, very slow through here and to the line. Did he keep it between the boundaries of the circuit? That's going to be critical. He did, and it's a 29 flat. That's much better. He jumps up to fourth.
The nice second lap there from Nieva, just with about 20 seconds left here in qualifying. I think that's pretty much going to do it. Seb Tixier out there just getting extra practice in right now because he is on lap number 4. But it's good to see this silver number 5 car back out there. Haven't seen him last week, so nice to have Tixier on the track again.
Good to see him be able to get back out here. Hopefully he's not feeling any lingering illness out of what was plaguing him before, but looks like With the grid set, we can go through today's starting order. Andres Valenteus back again for the third race this season. We'll start from the pole. It'll be Togo Hisada next to him with Nicola Kaki on the inside of row 2 and Jorge Nieva on the outside of that second row. Then in fifth, it'll be Seb Tixier, followed by Kevin Verbruggen in at P6. Wonderful qualifying from him. Steve Morris starts 7th, and Bjorn Ackerman. Great qualifying for Bjorn, too, starting from 8th place. Marco Salgado will be in 9th, and Gary Ho rounds out your top 10.
In 11th, we have Gary Quellen. Next to him is going to be Arnold Cook. Matthew Maudsley lined up in 13th with Jonathan Jordan in 14th. Kurt Clapper here in 15th. Cam Porter starts 16th. Hannah Fechner in 17th. Jan Steffen 18th. Tobias Harvey 19th. And Mats Linden will round out row number 10 and 20th.
Alan Graham starts 21st day, followed by Andre Bruno. To his outside, Thomas Tuba will be P23, along with Damian Struthers in 24th. Thomas Martin starts 25th today. Last two to set times, there's David Muse in 26th and Mark Briones in 27th. From there, it's drivers who did not set a lap: Jason Clapper, Brent McCullough, Thomas Villershausen, Roberto Pangrazzi, and Ron Solka, the last of your field here today. So 32 cars going to be taking part around a track that is not terribly long and difficult to try and lap others around. So what kind of action is that going to give us? It's certainly good conditions on the track surface itself. It's 70 Fahrenheit, and it looks like the cars are ready to go. The engines now start to rev as the lights come up, and the green flag is out. Coming off the line, it's a decent start for our front row, both Hisada and Valenteus. A very good start from Jorge Nieva, trying to look around the outside, coming into Ernst. Looks like he's able to take that third away, while Seb Tixier comes charging forward to try and take P4.
He's on the inside of Nicola Kaki right now as the rest of the field kind of scrambles to figure out their position. And now we head into this incredibly fast sweeping turn number 3. It is Valenteus out front. Togo Hisada, Jorge Nieva, that's your top 3. Look at how busy it is in the back of the field.
It's all medium speed corners to start things off. Drivers trying to jockey for position on that one. Meanwhile, they hit the first chicane, the Kleine chicane, and this is where it could all go wrong for a lot of drivers. You get a slowdown penalty on the first lap, Joey, and it is horrible.
Barney is always watching, making sure you're not cutting those apex curbs, and it is easy to place your car too far over those apex curbs. Looks like for the most part, the top 15 has made their way through. See Cam Porter back here in 14th place, has picked up a couple of positions just in the first half of the opening lap.
Everybody braking hard down into Boulder Bird, trying to make their way through that sharp right-hander without tangling with one another, but it looks like we're all good so far. Now down into the X chicane. It is still Valenteus leading Hisada with Nieva all the way up to third now since the start of this race. We're watching Gary Ho here as he chases Steve Morris coming down in the first corner, watching with his webcam over the shoulder. He's under severe threat from Bjorn Ackerman right behind him, though.
I think the reason why is because Gary's actually jumped up a couple positions on that opening lap, and he's right on the back of Steve Morris right now for that 7th place position. Let's see if he can kind of set up turn number 3, because you can pass down into that first heavy chicane. You just got to make sure to get the car slowed up. But Bjorn actually has a very nice exit. I'm sorry, Steve does.
Looking down to the inside, the 7 thinks about it, but Steve Morris will deny him this time. They all separate coming out of the Kleine chicane. One of the few places with elevation change up and over Buttes here. Got to be careful on that throttle and with the steering wheel.
Looking back at a little bit further back in our field here, this is Brent McCullough, Thomas Willershausen, Thomas Martin all back here. It's about 3 or 4 cars, all for 27th place as they enter this second chicane. Not as tall as the first chicane, but just as tricky.
Villeneuve chicane coming through there, the infamous spot where we sadly lost the great. Oh, down to the inside and way too deep for somebody there. That's Mats Linden, who is going to lose multiple positions trying to dive it into the hairpin.
And come back in kind of that lane change area there as Jason Clapper is typically doing Jason Clapper things here. He picks up another position in that number 8 car, so he usually doesn't put down a qualifying time, which means he has to start all the way in the back. Hannah Fechner coming down pit road. I have to assume, Joe, probably still a qualifying setup in that car.
I'm seeing a black flag.
Oh.
Like, so something must have happened on the first couple laps. Either a cut course penalty that was not served enough, and it looks like a drive-through, so I think that might be the case. So that's going to spit her back out at the very back of the field, unfortunately.
You know, you had mentioned you don't want to get those cut course penalties on the opening lap. I wonder if it was one of those deals where it was just so abnormally long, it might be better worth to take the drive-through rather than give that thing up.
Yeah, like I said, puts her back in 31st out of 31 that did show up. We're missing a car at the start of this race for the 32 full field. Jorge Nieva, in the meantime, sitting back in the 3rd position, sandwiched between Hisada and Kaki. Kaki, no doubt, wants to get that one back, considering he's now fighting for a championship in these early stages, and that's his rival directly in front of him.
What I found interesting about the first, call it 4 laps so far, because they're completing this lap right now, is Valenteus was able to stretch it out to about 1.2 seconds in the first opening couple laps. But now Togo and Jorge, they've closed it back up as, looks like problems with Arnold Cook a little bit further back there as Nicola Kaki grabs that fast lap. Nicola Kaki, speaking of, almost just overtook Jorge Nieva for what is the 3rd place. So I know there's a lot of stuff going on, but the fight up front is pretty thick and heavy.
Yeah, you can see Bjorn Ackerman losing a spot to Gary Quellen. He's going to hold him back as they come into Bianchi, but if he gets a good exit, we could see Bjorn make another move down into the Kleine chicane. He's close to him. He's thinking about it. He's showing himself in the mirrors, but he brakes a little early, and he's going to wait.
He's coming down into that same section of racetrack. Jonathan Jourdain down to the inside here. He's got Matthew Maudsley directly behind him, and that's Cam Porter directly in front of him. Cam is having a fantastic run so far. It looks like Cam had just gotten by that pink number 19 of Jonathan as he runs off the track himself. He's going to have to give up not one, but what I'd assume several positions.
He's got a slowdown penalty now, and he's trying to park it at the apex as best he can to help save his bacon. It is helping him, but he's still got that penalty. He hasn't given enough back quite yet. He's given the rest of it back now, so he is safe. And this caused quite the battle just behind him as Tobias and Arnold Cook are now going to be side by side coming down to the chicane. And Arnold gets fed out into the grass just a little bit. Oh no! Cam Porter slammed into by Harnvey down into the chicane. It has all gone awry for this group in a myriad of ways this lap.
You see the puzzled look on Cam Porter's face. I think he's honestly wondering what the heck just happened. Harnvey and the other car made some contact going into that brake zone, and what I would assume just kind of foot came off the brake pedal, and Cam Porter was right in the trajectory. As we check back in on Bjorn Ackerman, he has not let Gary Quellen go at all. Bjorn had that fantastic qualifying effort up inside the top 10. Has slipped down a couple positions, but still hanging on to the back of it, fighting to try to stay inside.
Doing everything he can here, and he's definitely keeping Quellen honest. We saw him last time get very close down into the first chicane. He's close to him once again here down into Villeneuve, but just can't seem to get by him. So we'll have to try and get
got a black flag there.
Oh, wow, he cut that much?
Yeah, those, okay, so you mentioned it earlier, and we haven't really had like a great, just straight up overhead camera view, especially of that second chicane. It is so easy to cut the apex a little bit too far, and then Barney will say, no, you're going to have to give some of that time back, and that's exactly what happened to Ackerman. First chicane, last chicane doesn't hurt you as bad because the visual references, but that chicane number 2, it is so tricky.
Man, it hurt him bad there. He's losing many car lengths now on Quellen, so he'll have to fight back up to him. Checking in on Bruno, though, down here in 26th position. Got at least a couple cars in front of him, but also those behind. We've got a semi-train forming here at the back of the field, being led by Mark Briones.
Oh, looks like Matthew Maudsley just had a problem. I believe that was in turn number 1 there, so it's going to fall him back. And Cam Porter, who we were just talking about, fighting for 12th places. Now, what I would expect, Joe, is probably going to be moving through the field. Looks like he's going to slice to the inside, take away 15th from Tomas Tuba.
Glad to see him bouncing back quickly. Can understand his confusion after just being slammed into an innocent victim there. He's going to fight back hard, and a nice move around the outside. That's going to give 15th to Cam Porter.
It's interesting, too, because Cam Porter is actually just 1 position up from where he qualified. So what I would expect is just a very, very poor qualifying for Cam.
There we go. Thankfully, we've got some visuals back here, but just as we lost some cameras, Jorge Nieva managed to pass Togo Hisada for 2nd place. So he has moved into P2 and is now about 2 seconds behind Andres Valenteus. If he's fast enough, I think it's not beyond possibility that Jorge could run him down.
No, and I'm going to go back and take a look at exactly how this happened here, Joe, because we've been talking about those cut course and Barney had given you those slowdowns. I think that's exactly what happened to Togo Hisada, because Nieva just went to the inside in one of these later hairpin corners. It's almost like Togo Hisada didn't even defend, like he had to slow down.
Interesting. Good catch on that one. So let's watch and see what he does from here, because, I mean, he's remaining very close, but he's got to be careful. Look at the cars behind him. Nicolas Kaki is right there. Seb Tixier. They're both very savvy. And if he makes a move and comes off the corner slow, they're going to be there to pick up the pieces.
And just watch Nicola. I'm checking. He got away with it. It's just that razor's edge limit of how far can you cut that apex curb, that apex right there, and then get away with it without overstepping the line. The more you can shave it, the closer you can get, the faster you can go through it.
Every driver's always trying to do that, widening the track, opening up the inside and outside boundaries as far as you can go. But there is a limit with this being on a computer. Unlike in real life, they can absolutely tell you to the smallest of margins where that limit is, as Jorge Nieva leads them down. Last lap was a 28.9 for Jorge. It was a 28.7 for Audrey. So he was about 0.2 quicker or thereabouts, but not a massive margin.
No, and I wonder if Nieva's concentrating on Hisada. We know how smart he is. He wants to go up there and race for the win, but there's always that just lingering car right there in the mirror, and Togo's got a fantastic run into the first chicane. I don't think he's close enough. He presents the car, he shows it in the mirror, but what that's doing to the gap between first and second is just extending it, because Nieva's concentration on the mirror instead of the apex.
He's going to leave the door open, and Togo's going to look for it. That forces Nieva wide. Is he going to get a slowdown for that? No, it looks like he was within the boundaries. Verbruggen will, though, so he's going to have to give back a little bit on that one. And you know how I would describe Jorge? I feel like he's a realist. He doesn't try to sugarcoat anything. He knows his capabilities, and so does Togo as he manages to get to the inside. But look at the defense from Jorge. Somehow he holds him off from around the outside of the hairpin.
I think he actually kind of showed Togo Hisada a little something right there that made... Oh, and Nieva made a mistake himself. He's 4 wheels off. That's going to open the door for Togo Hisada. I wonder if Nieva has a slowdown. Yes, he does. Watch out for Nicolas Kaki as well as Seb Tixier. Nieva's got to give this up carefully. Oh, my goodness, 3 wide.
Oh, down in the first corner, and it is Togo Hisada who comes out the worst of it. He runs out of track on the right-hand side. He now falls into 5th position, allowing Seb Tixier through. Somehow, despite a slowdown penalty, Nieva comes out on top of that one. He placed his car beautifully at that apex.
I don't know how that worked out, just between Kaki forcing the issue 3 wide, Togo Hisada maybe blowing turn 1 maybe just a little bit. Nieva was able to serve a penalty and maintain 2nd position, but it's grown to 4.5 seconds. I think the fight is officially for 2nd place today.
You're going to start to get some frustrated drivers in here, eager drivers as well, who know that there are opportunities. Not only do they have Togo Hisada now at the back of it, Kevin Verbruggen is just creeping up behind the number 3 car. So we're creating quite the train here at the front of the field, even though it's not for the lead. While Jorge's been doing a great job, he's going to have to deal with quite a few people that are going to have their hands full trying to overtake him.
I think what he likes to see is that green helmet directly behind him. He knows how fast Nicola is. He's been putting down purple fast laps, but I think when it comes down to the consistency, Nieva would rather have Nicola behind him than somebody like Seb or Togo, where he's going to have to constantly defend from these crazy late lunges and guys that want to go up there and control the race from the front. So I think when we're talking about our second place runner, he can relax a little bit. However, 4th and 5th, Seb and Togo, they got to get a move on.
It's somewhat ironic that you're describing the Italian of the group, the more cool-headed of everyone. But we come back to Jason Clapper, who continues to climb forward, now looking for that 13th spot. Arnold Cook is fighting him for it, round the outside, coming into Sternvacht. And he's going to have the grip maybe, because it looks like he's starting to pull a nose ahead, but it's all a triple right-hander here, and no, there is just not enough for him.
I think the shortest distance around there will prevail, and now Jason's going to put the power down coming out of turn number 3 and say see you later to Arnold Cook. He's got a little bit of a road ahead of him to catch up to the likes of Jordan and Ackerman and Quellen, but we're only approaching halfway, and do you see the side of that car? I am seeing a doggo on the side of that car. Huge fan, Jason Clapper. A+ on that paint.
I just noticed it now, too, as it came onto the camera. I was like, oh, Joey's going to love that. And I do. I approve as well. So the 8 car is, he knows his audience, apparently. He comes around still in that 13th spot with about 1.5 to catch up to Jonathan Jordan just in front of him. Hannah Fechner, remember, out of place after that loss of position from the penalty, and she just took 25th off of Thomas in the number 25 car appropriately.
Yeah, she was doing lap times. Her last was a 1:30.2, her fastest of the race. And compare that to where that would put her, probably about 10th to 12th place area. So I think that the pink and blue number 12 will continue to move her way up. Alan Graham is next on the list, and actually she's got, call it 3 or 4 cars directly on her plate in front of her.
Breaking through that last chicane as we jump back up now to Seb Tixier. He's getting very close to the back of Cocky. While Cocky might be one who is a little bit more content behind Jorge Nieva here in this 3rd position. Seb, like you said, can be aggressive on his passes, and his speed is almost unmatched in this series. So I have no doubt he's going to make a fight out of this. We're halfway through the race now, so he's still got plenty of time left.
Come up through this late little lane change maneuver. Uh-oh, Jorge Nieva, he must have gotten a slowdown. The name of the game here at Zolder is to stay on the racetrack, so the driver that was in 2nd relinquishes. He's all the way back down to 5th. It looks like he served it, but now the fight will be between Cocky and Tixier, and Seb actually has a little bit of freedom behind him to just lay down the aggression on Nicola Cocky.
He could hide the mistake once, but there's no place to hide it that second time coming out of the hairpin, unfortunately. So that, like you said, puts him under threat because Togo Hisada is now behind him. In fact, he's just about breathing his fumes right up to those tailpipes as we check back in with Seb Tixier. He knows the 2nd place could be on the cards. Could he maybe chase down Audrius if he gets by? But they've lost massive time now. It's up to nearly 6 seconds to our leader. Here comes the battle for 4th. Oh, and both of them make mistakes as Togo Hisada spins. And I thought that was going to be a cut course for Nieva, but it looks like he was just within the boundaries.
You know, what has started a nightmare season for Togo Hisada continues right now. He has not had the results in the first 4 races as we see Hannah jump to the inside of the number 29. Looks like she's going to take away with a little bit of contact with Alan Graham right there. Alan fights back. Hannah's going to have to go the long way around to secure that 23rd position. But back to my point, I think that Togo Hisada is looking at probably a few of these first 5 races and wants to forget a lot of them.
I love that from Hannah. She says, you can't push me around. I'm taking this spot, and is up to 23rd. Gets away with it, too. That was impressive as we watch Thomas Martin down in 29th. Glad we're giving a little bit of love to the back of the field because it looks like this has been some exciting battling down here despite the action we've been getting up at the front. He's not brave enough to try and get by Damian Struthers this time, though.
Got to jump his way through the chicane there, up and over this little elevation crest. Zolder does have a lot of elevation, but I wouldn't call it huge amounts of elevation. They're more short, drastic undulations, if you will.
Which in this car is a bad deal.
Yes.
As soon as you get these crests right here, too, that we just saw them coming out of Turleman, that's a spot where the car can get oh so light. So drivers are having to feather the throttle through there.
Did you see that? That was actually Seb Tixier that just completely ran through that first chicane. He picked up a slowdown penalty. So I think everybody so far, minus our leader out front, Valenteus, has met with Barney virtually at least once so far this race.
And Togo Asada also got one. As I was checking, we get our flags on a little ticker here in the sim. And his had one next to his name. He's down to 7th. He's been losing out massively. I almost wonder if he's getting a little flustered having to serve them and losing so much time. But this man is cool as a cucumber as always. I'm not seeing any laps deleted from Andres Valenteus. So I know there was some speculation about whether or not he had a slowdown. But usually if you get one, the lap does not count and it's blanked out. So it looks like he's been clean.
It's been a little bit of an amusing race for me over here because Valenteus is like the organized businessman who showed up to the office with all of his files in his briefcase, yet everybody else is struggling to try to clutch onto him with their hands, and it's all falling out down the escalator, falling off of the racetrack, doing everything wrong, and Valenteus is just walking along, just out to a healthy 6.5-second lead.
Easy as you like up at the front, which he's won both of the races he's attended. Arnold Cook with a real scary moment there, facing off against Cam Porter, keeping the car pointed forward, thankfully. Cam actually up one position from where he started in spite of being knocked out a little bit earlier on. The thing I'm glad about is that the car isn't too damaged, that he can at least carry on and push.
Agreed, and let's see how aggressive he's going to be. He was really confident into this sector a little bit earlier, not going to make the move on Cook here this time. You had mentioned, yes, he is up one position from where he qualified, but his fast lap of 130.0 should put him up kind of more in the 10th to 11th range, which was right where he was on pace to be. I'm curious if he's going to be able to, 1, pass Cook and Jordan right in front of him, and if he is, if he can, 2, pull away after.
Accelerate their way down towards the hairpin, being led by Jonathan Jordan. We've got John up 1, Cook down 2, and Cam Porter up 1. So an interesting mix in this group, all kind of hovering about where you would expect based on their qualifying, but I think they would argue otherwise considering the chaotic race each of them have experienced so far. And Jordan did a good job playing defense.
Did a really nice job. Oh, Fechner no. Locking it up there, going for a pass on what I think was Mats Linden for 21st, maybe Tuba there for 22nd place. I'd mentioned the back sector here, and oh no, more problems for the number 3 car. That's Togo Asada and what looks like the exit of turn number 3.
Very un-Togo Hisada-esque race today for him. You'll see mistakes every once in a while, but not this many in a single race, and it has been just a miserable day for the Japanese driver. So we come back to Arnold Cook now. This fight still raging on as we take a look at what happened with Togo. Did he get his wheels in the dirt? That one was fine. This is through Bianchi, and the rear just would not hold on for him.
That corner, it's really fast, so the commitment level going in, you got to be able to set the nose and also be able to control the slide throughout it, because if you have understeer, guess what? Car's never going to make the corner, and I just think it was a little bit too much yaw angle, and Togo couldn't manage to save it, which, like you said, is very rare.
Checking out Thomas Tuba down here in 17th. He's chasing on David Muse. Muse has had a quiet, or at least quiet from what we've seen, but successful race. He's up 5 positions from where he started this one. So we'll see whether or not he can hold on to that as Max Linden, the next one up the road from him. Thomas Tuba going to try and deny him one of those spots with Alan Graham as well, just sitting behind. Now we're starting to get down to the last laps of this race, and it's a good exit from Alan Graham on Thomas Tuba. He's going to show his nose coming down to the chicane, but he can't outbrake him.
This might become very, very interesting, call it in the next 3 to 4 laps, because Bruno right behind as Alan Graham once again gets a fantastic run on Tuba. Let's see if he can late lunge into the brake zone. He presents the car. He's there. Tuba leaves him enough room, but really does a nice job to carry the momentum on the outside. But back to my point, Bruno and Fechner are right there behind. Fechner's trying to pass Andres right again there, and she had already gone up and got around these cars once already, but made a little bit of a mess. Let's see if she can do it clean this time.
Yeah, in that battle, I was able to go back and look because that's way off, and she's able to dodge just in time to get around Bruno, and that's going to give her at least 24th position. I was going to say she was battling for quite some time before the incident, and we got another one as into the wall goes Graham, trying to avoid Tuba, who is parked in the gravel outside of Kleina.
Yeah, really unfortunate for Alan Graham there. As you said, Tuba just kind of spun it around all by himself. And now Alan Graham misses the second chicane, so he's going to have a little bit of a slowdown. So make a few of those passes a little bit easier for that number 12 car of Hannah Fechner.
And Muse did as well. I mean, Hannah just made up something like 5 spots in one lap, and not from making passes, just everybody else just suddenly tripped in front of her.
Zolder's a difficult racetrack. We've been talking about the top 5 getting those slowdown penalties, but that's only if you make a very, very small mistake, Joe. If you make a little bit of a larger mistake, it can be catastrophic.
Well, you keep it on the island, and everybody else can do the work for you. As we come back to Jonathan Jourdain, now he's on the attack instead. Arnold Cook just in front of him. Cam Porter, who looked like he was going to try and take his spot. Oh, maybe he will get one here because Jourdain looks a little slow. He's not got a slowdown penalty. And coming up into the braking, he has to defend slightly.
See how they get through the chicane, wind their way up through this little incline. It doesn't look like much of an uphill here on the TV angles, but when you're in these little Formula cars, it's definitely up and over that little crest there, and then definitely flattens out into this final sector here. I kind of refer to it more as a go-kart sector, where the shortest distance is definitely the fastest way around in these cars.
Trying to shorten up that run through the hairpin as well here through the chicane, but you need a good exit. Whoa, that was a little deep from Cam. He's going to lose some ground on them because of that. As it's downhill, it's not a long straight, but a longer straight than a lot of the spots here into Erst, which interestingly that translates to first, so they named that corner appropriately.
Well, you learn something new every day, and I've just been trying to keep up with all the black flags over here. I'll pop open the tab every once in a while, and it just seems like it's a who's who of Gotham at the time, so I can't even report how many we've had. If I was to guess, easily 20 plus off tracks in terms of course cut slowdowns today.
They're going to have to buy the Marshals new black flags by the end of this one. They're going to wear them all out. As Jonathan Jourdain not able to gain coming through the first chicane on Arnold Cook. Great exit, actually, by that 21 car to keep himself at arm's length from the number 19. Coming down to just the last few laps here. So what about Jason Clapper here in 12th? Up 16 now. Can he make it 17? Bjorn Ackerman. A bit of a reverse trajectory.
I think he'll... Oh, Bjorn lifted at possibly a very sketchy area. Jason Clapper was able to avoid, thankfully, and no contact was made. So move Bjorn back to 12th and Jason up to 11th. I don't think he's going to be able to crack the top 10. Togo Hasada is currently sitting in 10th with a blistering pace, and he's quite a ways up the road, as Valenteus now just probably has to navigate a little bit of the lap traffic, but he's got 7.5 seconds margin back to second.
Yeah, it's been a stunning race from Valenteus here. Next closest driver in terms of fast laps is Seb Tixier, and he's about 2 tenths back. So That's a pretty decent gap for fastest lap of the race. Andreas has been picking him up and putting him down.
Oh, that Boeing paint scheme, just happy it doesn't have any doors on the thing as Nieva looks at Seb Tixier. And was this a change of position? Did Seb get around Jorge, or is this finally just closed up?
I believe that was reversed. So, yeah, let me check to see if that was racing.
Yeah, and now they're on the front straightaway here as Valenteus sets down another fast lap. We clicked it over to lap number 20, so call it 3 laps remaining. Nieva does squeak through that lap car, but the gap between him and Seb grew just a little bit. Kevin Verbruggen has had a fantastic race as well. He's that light blue car sitting in the 5th place position, so maybe if Nieva and Tixier get to scrapping, you got to watch out for Kevin sitting in the back seat.
This is quite the season for Verbruggen. I'd have to check to see specifically where he finished. I know the last race wasn't as great for him, unfortunately, down at Sandown, but this is going to be another solid one for him. He's going to have to maybe get a little bit higher up finishes if he hopes for a title, as that might be a bit distance. Cam Porter makes the distance past Jordan. That's going to get him into 14th place. Nice move into the first corner.
This is a different shape of the race, at least up front, as Cam does a nice job, like you said here, secures that position. Jordan's hanging tough on the outside. I think that Cam, though, will be able to kind of secure it, and only 1.2 seconds up the road to Arnold Cook. So another goal in mind there for Cam Porter as we check in on him. Nice and calm, just exhale there, got the pass done, focus forward. That's exactly what he needs to do. So back to my point, I think that Nieva, Tixier, Kaki, they're all very, very close together, but what they haven't had to deal with in the first 20 laps is navigating through the slower lap traffic.
That's a good point. And we had mentioned that earlier in the race, that could be an issue here with this being such a relatively short lap and so many cars out there. Nikola Kaki, another 2nd place, and critically for him, now finishing 2 positions ahead of Nieva if it ends like this, and that will help him close in that gap. I believe it's about a 9-point swing if they finish. No, excuse me, it'd be a little less than that since he's not in the lead here, so I'll do the math on that a little bit later. But the 4 car collecting more valuable points here.
All he's got to do is really kind of hit his marks the last lap and a half. He's proven that he's plenty fast as our leader gets around more of that lap traffic. He actually had to go to the outside there of that lapped car, kind of had to maybe narrowly work his way around. You never want to go to the outside as a leader. You're always leaving that inside open, and what if that lap car loses control? You're just in a dangerous area.
So it looks like it's going to be 7-point swing, which still leaves some work to do for Nikola Kaki, but he's got plenty of the season still left to try and close that one in. White flag is out for Andreas Valenteus one time around with a big enough gap that Nikola Kaki can barely see him even down the long straights.
It's always nice to be able to take a deep breath and kind of relax on the last lap. I'm kind of going to track Andreas's pace here on the final lap here. These guys always like to set down their fastest lap on the last lap because the fuel level is all the way low. That means the car is as light as possible, and he is tracking to the good right now.
Doesn't give him any bonus points, but like you said, I'm sure we'd love to be able to have the bragging rights on that one. And you can see how these cars get so light up over Butte and then down into the braking, into the Villeneuve chicane. Takes quite a bit of that, but he seems to know exactly where that limit is because there was no slowdown flag for him from that one. Andreas Valenteus with just a couple more corners to go, lining up into the Boulderberg hairpin. Oh, he outbrakes himself. That's not going to be a fastest lap, but he has that buffer, and I think maybe that's why he knew he could try and go for it there. So it bit him a little bit, but at worst, he just is a little red in the face there coming to the line. Out of the final chicane, the number 1 will finish P1 for the 3rd time this season. Andreas Valenteus wins here at Zolder.
Let's see if Nieva can put the power down. He got a huge block from Tixier going into the final chicane. Seb does hang on to that final podium position, but let me tell you what, Nieva put that nose cone on the back wheel into the gearbox several times. I definitely think it was a big old block from Seb to try to hang on to that podium.
He wanted that one. And as we watch Marco Salgado get a wonderful 7th place for himself, that's a good run there for the 10 car. And I think we may have had a change for position a little farther back. Wow, Toga Asada only 10th today. Cam Porter and Arnold Cook just swapped around, and that was coming out of Boulderberg. So nice move by Cam Porter, and that's going to get him 13th spot.
I think that Cam's going to look back on this race and he sees the checkered flag, and he wants more time. He wants more laps because he knows he was fast out there. He'll look back and probably be happy with his performance, but he would want to be probably a few more positions up from where he is.
That struck me as a sigh of relief, if anything. Hannah Fechner actually winds up only 3 spots down from where she started. Considering the drama she had to go through today, that's not a bad result, although it looks like the speed is there. Just needs to clean up the racecraft, and she'll be up in the higher spots without a doubt. Well then, it's time to go through our finishing results. And Andreas Valenteves, as I said, taking the win here today over Nicola Kaki by about 6.3 seconds. Would have been slightly bigger, but Andreas pushed it a bit too hard there at the finish. Seb Tixier is going to take a podium ahead of our points leader, Jorge Nieva, who finished 4th. Kevin Verbruggen was P5, as Steve Morris will finish in the 6th spot. Then you've got Marco Salgado in 7th. Gary Ho was P8, and Gary Quellen was 9th, with Togo Hisada starting on the front row and only collecting a 10th spot today.
Jason Clamper is your biggest mover, up 17 positions to finish in 11th. He started all the way back there in 28th, so great drive for that number 8 car. Bjorn Ackerman also had a good race despite slipping back a few positions to finish there in 12th. We documented Cam Porter's race quite well, finishing 13th. Arnold Cook 14th. Jonathan Jordan there in 15th. Kirk Clapper 16th. Matthew Maudsley 17th. Jan Steffen 18th. Tobias Harnvey 19th. And Hannah Fechner rounding out the top 20.
Mats Linden was the last one on the lead lap in 21st, followed by Andre Bruno in 22nd, David Muse P23. Thomas Villerhausen will be 24th, then Alan Graham in the 25th spot. You've got Damian Struthers 26th and Thomas Martin in at 27th. The last two to be one lap down was Brent McCullough and Mark Briones. Then it was Thomas Tuba, and it looks like a DNF for Ron Solka in 31st. Pongrazi was a did not start today, unfortunately. I think we've got Nicola Kaki ready to talk to us here. 2nd place finisher. Not only had to fight his way up to that spot, but then had to defend a little bit there at the end. Nicola, it looked like it was a real adventure just to finish P2 today.
Oh yeah, hi guys. It was it was very hard, but it's so much fun when you have the possibility to fight the whole race like that. And it was a little bit like a race of anybody who made the least mistakes. Luckily I was able to get no slowdowns. I think that Seb, Togo and Jorg as well had at least one slowdown, and that's 2 second, two and a half second in a race like this. It's big time.
Yeah. Well, was that your approach on this one? Were you just kind of focusing, I don't need the speed, I just need to be clean?
Yeah, because during the midweek race, I had a very close battle with Odrius, only to actually understand later that it was fuel saving for at least the last 10 laps. So it wasn't very, a fair battle. But in that race, I had a slowdown and a half spin, and which cost me the win basically. And so today I was even more focused to turn down a little bit the push button and to turn up a little bit the safe one. And
I tell you what, that turned out to be the right call. Congratulations on a P2, and hopefully we'll see you with another good finish at the Oval in Michigan next time.
Oh man, I don't think so. No, I'm really bad, Mara. I mean, very, very bad with the oval racing. So I don't think I will be there. I'm just too dangerous in a situation like that. So it will be a drop week for me, and you guys have fun.
All right. Well, understandable. And again, congratulations, as that was Nicola Kaki, our second place finisher here today. Behind him was Seb Tixier. I think Joey is going to be chatting with him.
Yeah, Seb Tixier joining us. First of all, congratulations on the podium here at Zolder.
Thank you.
It's nice to have you back out on the track, man. How does it feel?
Good. I'm feeling okay today, so I can race. But a good thing. Any race I take, just racing for me is already not a victory, but a good day.
I know you've kind of been going through a little illness over there, so yeah, I'm happy to have you back here in the sim. It seemed like Zolder bit quite a few people a lot of times with those slowdowns, including yourself.
Yeah, I got to slow down. The first one it was very stupid, and it was very the worst one because I was just behind Nico, so I wanted to just stay behind him and try to push to get away from third one. I think it was Jorge, because I think Togo had a slowdown. I mean, it was a bit messy behind, and we had almost like a 2-second gap with P4, and I made a mistake, and then Jorge got back to me, and then I got back to Nico, and then I got another slowdown. I was too fast on the slipstream, and I messed up my brake for the infamous horrible two-pit chicane. And then I become a criminal. I took my slowdown like a criminal, a smooth criminal, in the middle of the track. And yeah, sorry Jorge for that, but yeah, it's just I hate those slowdown. It's just a stupid way to make them. I think iRacing should do like Assetto Corsa. So it's my way of protesting. You know, I'm French. I like revolution, so I'm protesting by doing my slowdown in the middle of the racing line.
Now, did you get up and do the moonwalk while you're smoothly giving away that time penalty?
It's a bit hard in VR, in the motion. But I was doing the moonwalk with the pedals to slow down. Yeah.
I can see Joe's putting the Michael Jackson lean right now on you. So that's, I think, what you're doing. Seb, it's so good to have you back out on the track. Thank you so much for coming out and racing with us when you can. Is there anybody you want to say hi to?
Yes, thanks Odrius for the half setup. I took part of his setup and put my gearing and some other stuff from me. Thanks to Gario. Shout out to Gario, my bro from Singapore, always there for me. Shout out to Nico, it was nice talking to him. And you guys from GSRC, and Maurice, my team Platinum Racing from Australia, down under there.
Well, that was Seb Tixier coming home with a podium finish today at Zolder.
Indeed. Thankfully, nobody was hit or struck by the smooth criminal, and he's able to bring home that podium. As I think we got Cam Porter real quick. Let's have a chat. Man that had a lot of up and downs in this race. And Cam, we actually got to watch your reaction to the point where you got hit down into the chicane and kind of knocked off course. Talk to us about that incident and kind of how you deal with those mid-race where you get a little blindsided by some contact.
Well, that was a difficult interaction for sure. He was so far back, I didn't even see him coming. All of a sudden, bang, I'm off the track. It looked like he had some contact going into that turn, which upset his car, so he kind of lost control before he even made it to the corner. So it's hard to keep focused after that, and having lost a couple of positions from that after doing great in the opening laps is frustrating, but I was able to get my head back in it and had a enjoyable race after that with a couple fellas, Jonathan Jordan and Arnold Koch, the last lap battle. I don't know if you caught any of that, but that was very enjoyable. So shout out to those guys today for some good racing.
I don't think we saw it on camera, but I saw it happen, and I gave it a mention. Talk us through that last lap pass. That looked thrilling.
Yeah, Arnold, I noticed he was kind of all over the place. He obviously had, equivalent pace to me, but I could see he was struggling a little bit with the grip, I think. And I figured if I could keep the pressure on him, I might be. He did. He gave me the opportunity to make the pass on the last lap because I knew the 2 previous laps going into the hairpin, he kind of overcooked it. And I thought, I'm right on him. I might be able to pressure him into overcooking it again. And, that's what happened. So, Arnold, good racing. Just work on your mental game.
Well, again, excellent racing from you as well. It was fun to watch you try and fight back. And are we going to see it, Michigan?
I think so. Yeah. I don't normally buy oval content, but I remember purchasing that track at some point. I think, if I remember correctly.
It's
a free track, right?
Yeah. I believe it is.
Yeah, so certainly I'll be there for Michigan if it's a free track. I don't normally buy ovals unless they have rallycross tracks on them.
That sounds like a good excuse. That was Cam Porter, who came home in 13th here today after starting from 16th. So that's going to wrap us up with a big the Grand Prix Legends community, as well as to the team today, Daniel, Joey, and Dougie. Make sure to check out our social media, our website. Don't miss a moment here on GSRC. As we've been mentioning, it's off to the oval for our traditional one oval race of the season here in the 49s Michigan Speedway on Saturday, October 19th at 9:30 a.m. Eastern. Be sure to check out our other broadcasts that we have listed here, because up later today, the IMSA Vintage Series goes to Road America at 1 p.m. Eastern. That is a favorite of that crew, so you'll see a lot of drivers show up, no doubt. Until next time, though, race clean, race hard. We'll see you on the track.